morning, boys and girls. It's
Mrs. Walker
and Mrs. Hampton again. How are you? Okay, today we're going to change subjects. We're going to do a little math today, one of my favorites. And we're going to talk about one of the three types of graphs that you will be using this week in your lessons. Okay? It's very important. There's some key vocabulary words that you need to be familiar with when you're reading a graph or creating a graph. Okay, so let's look over here. Well, what is a graph? Well, a graph is a picture that helps us understand amounts. In this case, it will be a picture. What does a graph do? It uses data or data. You can hear it either way, and that's information, drawings that show mathematical information with real objects, pictures, or lines. This is what's part of your picture graph. We're going to first, though, we need data or data, and data is information. Well, we don't have the information, so we need to go out and survey people, and we need to make tally marks, which show groups of keeping count of what it is for that particular survey. And then we keep it neatly on a tally chart, and we have created a tally chart for you. Okay, so here is our tally chart. And our subject today, what we're surveying is, what is your favorite subject? So we went out and asked 18 people what their favorite subject was, okay? And so when we finished, for each person, we put a little tally mark. Okay, Mrs. Walker, why on science did we cross through that, those four, and then made a cross through?
Oh, Mrs. Hampton, this shows a group of 5. So when we use tally marks and we get to a group of 5, we put a line diagonal through it to indicate that that group is a group of 5.
Right, much easier to count that way when we're counting. Okay, so let's look at this. We have reading, science, social studies, writing, and math. Okay, let's look at our tally chart and with our information or our data. Reading, how many students had a favorite subject of reading? Okay.
1, 2, 3, 4. And I like to actually write the number as well as the tallies so I can reference it once more when I create my graph.
Right, it's much easier that way. Okay, and for science?
Well, I know that this right here is a group of 5 plus one more is 6.
All right.
Social studies, I see 2 tallies, so that's 2. Writing, we have 1. And math, one more time, I see this tally, this group, and it is a group of 5. There are no others with it.
Okay. So that is our data that we're going to now use to create our picture graph. Now we could use this, and you'll know later in this week, we are making picture graphs, bar graphs, and line plots, and you can use this very same information for all 3 graphs, but today we're just going to talk about the picture graph. Okay, what do you think a picture graph has on it for information? Picture graph. Might be a clue in there. Pictures, picture graph, you got it. All right, so you're going to draw pictures to represent each tally or each person. All right, so we have very important things on graphs. All graphs must have a title. You have to know what you're referencing to. You have to know what it is that you're talking about. And in this case, we are talking about our favorite subject. And if you'll notice, we've matched it with our tally chart. Okay, favorite subject. Well, we need to have the subjects listed. So here we have our math, science, reading, social studies, and writing. And there are pictures. Another important part of it on the side, the other side, now the title can go either on the bottom or the top. It doesn't matter, just so long as you have the title. Then the number of votes. Okay, we had our data there, and that's going to be along here. And then it's very important in a picture graph to have the picture, and what does that picture represent? So I have a book here, and every time I see one book, every time I see a book, I'm going to represent it as one book. Okay, one book. Maybe I'll even write the word book so I'll remember. Now that is called either a scale or a key. It can be either or, scale or a key. So every time I see a book, I am going to know that it represents one, okay? I can always change this, and we can maybe do a little quick one after, Mrs. Walker. What do you think?
Absolutely.
Okay, so now I'm ready to create my picture graph. All right, so let's look at the first picture. It is math. Where am I going to get that information, Mrs. Walker?
I'm going to refer back to my tally chart because I know it has my subjects and it also has my data that I collected. And right here, math, I know that there were 5 people who voted for math as their favorite subject.
So how many pictures of books, or how many books do I need? You're absolutely right. 5. And I am not an artist, so instead of the actual book looking, I'm going to just do squares. Whoops, I might have gone too big here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right. All right. Now I go on to reading.
Here's reading right up here. I'm going to refer back to my tally chart. And Mrs. Hampton, it looks like 4 people voted for reading as their favorite subject.
Okay. And boys and girls, it's important when you're drawing your picture that you keep them at the same level. And I will explain, or Mrs. Walker can explain in how many 4? Okay. Later why that is important when we're reading our data. All right, and for science?
Ooh, science has quite a few. Science has 6, Mrs. Hampton.
Oh, how many books do I draw? You're right, we do 6, so I'm gonna 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Whoops. Sorry, guys. All right, and I'm often level here, and it's good to stay in the lane, unlike Mrs. Hampton. All right.
Looks like social studies is next. I'll refer back to our tally chart, and there are 2 people who voted for social studies as their favorite subject.
So I'm thinking I do 2 books. What do you think, Mrs. Walker?
Yes, Mrs. Hampton.
Okay.
That looks great. And it looks like writing's our last one, and writing has 1 tally, so 1 person voted for writing as their favorite.
Okay, very good. All right.
Wow, Mrs. Hampton, looking at this graph, I can already start to see quite a few things that our data represents.
Mm-hmm. Right. Well, looking at it, I can see right off, without even having to count, what's the favorite subject from these children that we surveyed. You're right. Science looks like it is the favorite. All right. What's the least favorite? What is the least favorite? You're right. Writing is the least favorite. Okay. Can we find out anything else, Mrs. Walker, on this?
Sure, we can figure out how many people we took votes from to begin with. We can see how many people we collected data from by adding all the different categories and votes together.
Okay, so shall we do it?
Yeah, absolutely.
5 plus 4, 9 plus 6. Very good. 15 plus 2, 17 plus 1, 18. So we surveyed 18 children. Okay. What else could we find out about this? Could we find out maybe what 2 subjects? The number of 2 subjects people voted on was their favorite? Perhaps how many liked science or writing? Science or writing? 6 plus 1, 7.
So 7 students liked science and writing all together. Mrs. Hampton, I wonder how many more students enjoyed or liked reading more than writing. How many people liked reading more than
Well, I could count my squares, and I know that there are 4 there, and I see 1 here. But also, remember I told you earlier it's important that you keep it pretty level, because we really can just look at it. Let me do this. And we can see here from reading, and we can really just count those 3. We could make a number sentence. 4 minus 1 equals 3 more. Or we can just look at the actual picture. And I forgot to tell you, boys and girls, at the beginning why a graph is important, or why we make graphs, because it's a quick way of getting good information. Okay, it didn't take us very long at all, did it? So it's a quick way to gather information. Okay. Are there any questions on what a picture graph looks like?
So Mrs. Hampton, a picture graph is when you use a picture of what you were collecting data on to represent within the graph.
Absolutely.
Can the pictures change depending on what you were collecting data on?
Sure. You mean if we're talking ice
Food.
cream?
Yep, ice
Okay.
cream.
If we were talking ice cream, would I put this as a scale? No. What could I draw as an ice cream? Right. Ice cream cone. Could my scale change? Absolutely. I could say every time I see an ice cream cone, it could mean 2 people, or it could mean 2. So if we were to change this, I don't have an ice cream, I should have. We could do that. Or we could keep it back at the math, or the subject. What if I said 2? The scale was 2. And I looked at my scale, my picture graph again. All right, for math, the favorite for math this time, if everything was 2, every time I saw a square 2, what would I count by? You're right, I would count by 2. So instead of just 4 blocks or 5 blocks, it would be 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Okay, 10. So you can create your own, and what you could do is survey your family for something in your home. Call up your family, your grandma, grandpa, cousins, and get data, make your tally graph chart, and then create your own picture graph. And if you do that, we'd love to see it. We would absolutely love for you to show it to us. All right, again, picture graph, pictures must have a title. You must tell us what the number is of whatever, and you must have a scale or a key. All right, boys and girls, thank you for staying with us, and we hope this was helpful. You guys have a great day.